Welcome all of you to our session on Belt and Road Initiative. It's a great privilege for me to chair this interesting session, and I'd like to thank Dr. Jaswal for organizing yet another event in which I'm participating. And it's a great honor and great pleasure, as I said. And my institute, the Institute of Middle and Far East, is supporting this panel, and we are also participating in this conference in other panels of Jagiellonian University in Krakow, which makes me very happy to be part of this event and to extend our cooperation with NICE. So today within our panel, I have on the list 8 speakers, but I will ask if everyone is present. And depending on that, I will allocate the appropriate time for each of our panelists. So I will just read out the names of today's panelists. Dr. Priyanka Singh, please, you're present. Yes, I cannot hear you. Yeah, okay. And now Dr. Nicuşor-Florea.
He's present.
Yes, I'm sorry if I misspelled your name. Dr. Sania Makna.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, you are there. And Dr. Shahid Hashmat. Dr. Shahid Hashmat, I think he's not present with us today. And then Dr. Pfokrelo Kapesa.
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, wonderful. Good morning. Professor Sonam Lama.
Yes, good morning. I'm present today.
Good morning. Good morning. Dr. Benjamin Makengo. I think I saw you. Yes, wonderful. And Ms. Eva Disanayake.
Yes, good morning. I'm here.
Okay, so good morning. So then we have, out of 8 panelists, we have 7 panelists today. So I would suggest that everyone has like 8 up to 9 minutes. Okay, 9 minutes, it's a maximum. So then we can have a time for a fruitful conversation and Q&A session, okay? So Belt and Road Initiative is definitely one of the most interesting topics of our contemporary international relations and security system, as China's rise a distinctive phenomenon. So China has this comprehensive plan to achieve national rejuvenation by 2049, when the PRC centenary will be celebrated, and the plans were outlined by Xi Jinping. These plans assume that China will take a decisive role in shaping the world order by creating favorable conditions in the region and beyond. So the major question is, when we look at current security dynamics, to what extent China is capable of achieving these goals? And I hope that we will have a very fruitful panel, because the panelists, as I can see, they are touching upon various issues while exploring the Belt and Road Initiative. China-Pakistan economic corridor, which is particularly interesting to me, I must admit. And then Europe-Asia connectivity, Central Asia, so many interesting regions will be covered today. So without any more delay, I will give the floor to our first distinguished speaker, Dr. Priyanka Singh. Please, the screen and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair, and very good morning to all of you. First of all, I would just like to thank NICE and Dr. Pramod Jaswal for having me here. It's a real privilege to be speaking in this panel. To study Cpec, that's my topic, the China-Pakistan economic corridor, is a premise. It is very important to really contextualize the project in the overall ambit of the China-Pakistan relations. Now, China-Pakistan relations are decades old, and the bilateral relationship is very unique in more than one ways. Even as China participated in the Western-led alliances, the CETO and the CENTO, it was kind of engaging with China at the same time. And because of the unequivocal patronage which Pakistan has enjoyed over the years in history from countries in the West. It was really kind of it's the strategic Pakistan felt sort of emboldened all the time, because it was also because Pakistan was more experimental. And why I'm saying so is because it was able to establish ties with the West and with China in critical years of the Cold War. Now, Pakistan and China, they have expressed determination to elevate their all-weather friendship and strategic partnership. And if you look at even in 2007, the joint statement which was issued at the end of Prime Minister of Pakistan's visit to Beijing, it spoke in detail about how the economic content of the relationship, the economic dimension of the relationship, the bilateral relationship should be expanded. And then the Sino, they had a bilateral trade relationship also, which was established quite early in the 1950s. Now, till in 1980s, the Chinese aid to Pakistan was comparatively low and remains so till the 1980s. The fillip to the economic component of the relationship was, of course, provided after 2000, I would say. That there was some kind of, if you could say, some positive trajectory which in the trade relationship between China and Pakistan. But the interesting part is that over all these years, the balance of trade has been favoring China and not Pakistan, if you look at the data over the last 30, 40 years. So what I'm going to do, as I provided the context, I'm just going to flag a few issues, because obviously we don't have much time. The fact, what I'm going to look at is the discontent part of the Cpec. There is a lot of discontent behind this whole project, be it geopolitical, be it in some measure bilateral, and some kind of, if you look at the trilateral equations between China, Pakistan, and India. So in that sense, what is this discontent about? So if you look at the entire construct of the Cpec, I don't know whether it's kind of really deliberate, but the attempt has been to really showcase this project in the neat construct of the attempt so far has been to show this in this construct of connectivity and development sort of a thing. But I always feel that there has been less of a focus on the viability quotient of the project, because this corridor, it passes through Xinjiang, it passes through Gilgit-Baltistan and Balochistan, and all these regions, they have these strands of political discontent against the state, which are kind of really controlling these areas. So that is an important aspect which I feel has been largely ignored in the discourse on Cpec, because there's this geopolitical chimera kind of, around this whole project. Of course, it is a very important project. It is the flagship project from the BRI stable, and geopolitically, it is very relevant in that sense. And it has kind of aroused a lot of interest also because of the fact that China's economic prowess has really kind of taken a sharp rise over the last few years, and the amount of interest which has been accorded to this particular project in the BRI is kind of has to do with the fact that China is kind of at the helm of this project, and it involves one of the closest allies of China, that is Pakistan. So the staple argument in this sense has been from, of course, those who kind of promote the idea of Cpec is that it is kind of really changed the trajectory of the entire belt which it is crossing, which again becomes very critical because, as I said, it passes through regions which they have large scale problems related to development. There's great degree of political discontent in the region, and all these three regions which I just spoke of, they do not kind of really agree, they do not accept the authority of the states which are controlling them fundamentally. So that has been there. Then the other part has been related to the resources, because all these three regions are very rich in resources. So there is this these issues, related issues of ownership of these resources. I mean, people, if you look at their these three regions, there is this sentiment that people of the local people do not have ownership of these resources, and that has, because China is kind of leading this project, there is this kind of a trepidation against China. People are developing that kind of an anti-China sentiment because they feel that all those resources are going to benefit China and not these local people. So that has been there. Then the other thing, I think I've just covered the political dissonance part. I'll come to it in the discussion probably more. Then the geopolitical and the strategic discord, of course, involving other countries like India, because India has raised its objections against Cpec, and it believes that a corridor cannot be built through a territory which is claimed by India as part of the former state of the Jammu and Kashmir. So those things have been there. The other thing that has to be looked into, if you're looking at the discontent part of the Cpec, is the fact that this development versus discontent paradox. I mean, that has been there for a very long time. So this debate or the correlation between the development and political stability and how these propositions, they impact each other or remain kind of really diametrically opposed. So that has to be really looked into, must be studied somewhat in more detail. Then there is this dilemma also of what comes first, whether political stability comes first or economic development. How are they kind of really chronologically sort of there? So that part, one really the discussion, if you look at the Cpec, I mean broadly it kind of really touches on these issues. No, the third part of what I want to really say is about the slowdown. I mean, if you look at the debate in the past 2-3 years, it's gradually drifting as to how the Cpec is not really happening the way it should, to put it simply. Authorities on the subject, like Andrew Small, they call it like the slowdown, which is happening in this whole project. Why is it not kind of really? Why is it felt that the project is really not sustainable? Of what I said in my previous part of my talk, that they're pertinent issues which were perhaps overlooked in the initial years, and now that those issues are really kind of sinking in, whether it is the policymakers, whether it comes down to really kind of implementation or the practical implementation of those projects. So those issues are now figuring up in the entire thing. So even in within Pakistan, if you look at it, there has been, I mean, I would be honest to say that there has always been in Pakistan, there's debate whether and how useful the Cpec is going to be for the Pakistani people. So and now the debate is complete. Is it kind of really becoming, I would say, more substantiated by what is happening on the ground? So those issues, when they have been reported widely in the media of how these projects which were supposed to kind of go in a particular direction, they are not really moving in that direction. There are a lot of problems that are being faced, and some have also called it like they are not mega projects. They are probably, to quote somebody, they are peanut projects in that sense. I'm not denying that some of the early harvest projects have kind of really, they have met their if not the expected deadlines, but of course they are nearing completion. But the future at the moment, it really looks bleak. It also looks bleak because of the security aspect of the whole project. Recently there was an attack on a bus which was carrying Chinese engineers near a dam project in Kohistan, and some of the Chinese nationals, they died. They were engineers who were working on several projects, and they died. And after that there has been some kind of a discontent between the Chinese and the Pakistani side, but of course that has been less reported. That's, I think, a deliberate attempt to kind of really keep it very low profile, those issues. But the fact remains that there are concerns about the Chinese security within Pakistan. And these attacks are kind of really showing that the future may not be, the future of this project may not be as kind of really, the ride may not be as smooth as it was meant out to be, despite the fact that Pakistan invested a lot of money in raising forces, which would really safeguard the Chinese personnel, the Chinese assets, which were involved in this project. So those things are there. Concurrently, I just want to touch on the other debate since Pakistan. The other debate which is happening within Pakistan is the fact, especially because Pakistan has been a very close ally of the United States, which is, of course, for various reasons, has been in adversarial ties with China now. So there is this debate within Pakistan whether US was better as an economic partner or China, because once you get down to the nitty-gritties of the economic partnership, the ways, how countries kind of really engage economically. There is this sense in Pakistan whether the US was more kind of really generous in as far as terms of engagement were concerned, as far as flow of money was concerned. So and there are people who have really expressed openly that yes, Pakistan, that the US was kind of really more relaxed in its kind of really terms of economic engagement as far as Pakistan is concerned. And the fact remains that the Pakistan US ties, I mean, they're as old as probably Pakistan China, but I would say it is far more rather, if you look at the practical aspects of the relationship, I would say it's not far behind what the Pakistan-China relationship looks like at the moment. So those things are there. And there are concerns within Pakistan that the numbers, I mean, even if the Chinese money is coming inside Pakistan, why is it not showing in the FDI? I mean, why is it kind of really not so tangible in that sense? Because the project was announced in 2015. Of course, the paperwork was happening long before in 2014, 2013. But what people are kind of feeling is that it's not showing so tangibly on the practical side of the things. So those things are there. I would just touch upon the Indian position. Initially, when the project was announced, I mean, there was some kind of the opinion within India was divided. But I would say over the last 6-7 years, the opinion within India over on Cpec has rather crystallized further. It has become clearer that India cannot be a part of any project which affects its sovereignty issue. And this has been made very clear by the highest echelons of the government, by Prime Minister Modi when he visited Beijing in 2015, and after that, a lot of, I mean, there has been a string of official pronouncements regarding India's position on Cpec, and now I feel the public discourse also, in a way, it's more synchronized, and everyone knows that there are hardly any examples in history also where China, Pakistan and India have constructively kind of cooperated and really come out with something which is very sort of concrete in that sense. Taking examples from the past, I think the public discourse, how is it shaping in India regarding Cpec, is the fact that at the moment in this kind of state, we cannot be a part of, India cannot be a part of the Cpec. I think I would end there and I would be open to questions and comments. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Singh, for your interesting speech. Yes, indeed, you raised very interesting and important issues here, which I also touched upon in the article which I shared with all of you, recently published on the Cpec. And I think when we discuss Pakistan, China relations, the United States, we should also take into consideration the recent dynamics in Afghanistan. And I hope that we will touch upon this issue, how the situation in Afghanistan, the taking of power by the Taliban, may influence not only the Cpec, but the entire Belt and Road Initiative. because as we know, Afghanistan, strategically located, plays a tremendously important role in the entire Chinese plans of constructing the Cpec and the Belt and Road Initiative. So now let's give the floor to our next speaker, Dr. Florea. Please, the floor is yours. We will hear the speech about Europe-Asia connectivity. Hello, hello.
Yes, can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can hear you perfectly.
I want to start by saying it is a great pleasure to be here with you all. And well, the title of my presentation may sound a little bit pretentious, but overall, I would like to say a thing or two about the anthropology of the BRI, about how this whole idea was born. I'm not sure whether you could see my slides at this point.
Yeah.
Excellent. So hold on a second, please. Here we go. Well, in terms of the Europe-Asia connectivity initiatives, I want to stress that the BRI is only one of the many initiatives that are trying to make Europe and Asia interact, that are while definitely trading goods. Definitely when it comes to China, we have to take this into account. Their Sinocentric dimension, well, it's called, after all, it's called Zhongguo, right? And the outward conscious dimension of China, which is rather visible to the BRI. And in this regard, I remember a joke told by one of my Uyghur friends. He said that when Marco Polo arrived to China, he had a taste of Xinjiang Ban Mian. And then he went back to Italy, so then he somehow invented the Italian spaghetti. I think it's very nice the way the Chinese people internalize the figure of Marco Polo. However, despite the fact that there were routes linking China and Europe since time immemorial, they have found silk in the Egyptian tombs dating more than 5,000 years ago. The Silken Road is rather a modern notion. And the first place where I could identify the concept, rather modern concept of the Silk Road, was in a cartograph documented, realized by German geographer von Richthofen. He's the grandfather of the World War I war hero, the Red Baron, Baron von Richthofen. So at that time, 20 years before the Chinese annexed Qingdao, he used this word Seidenstraße for a project of connecting China and Germany, particularly Qingdao, through railway. Obviously, if I mention this, I have to go back to Immanuel Kant's Treaty on Perpetual Peace, where he envisaged the right of common possession of the earth, and he referred to the people of Sir. And this, I found this particularly interesting, because when you say the people of Sir, when you refer to the Chinese as the people of Sir, you definitely create a connection between the main trade of China, which was bringing silk to Europe, and the Chinese people. And as a witness to this, we have several European words that make a reference to this. We have metaxis in Greece, and we have seta in Italian, and we have silk in English, right? And they all come from the Chinese word of si, si chou de si. And I also found this very interesting when it comes to how we somehow perceive the Silk Roads. Seidenstraße was later translated in French as La Route de la Soie, in a text that provided certain dimension of cosmopolitanism, as well as what we will nowadays refer to cultural relativism. For the English language, the first mention that I managed to find was in a story from 1913. Paradoxically, in China, it showed quite recently in a newspaper. I remember when I was doing my PhD research in a newspaper in 1939, as Silu, and later on the idea was developed in the same shape as we know it today, Siqiu Zilu. Now, I believe I will run out of time shortly. So when it comes to the contemporary views of the Silk Road, I would like to mention several perspectives. I would start with the initiative of the Romanian president, Ion Iliescu, in the early 90s, who wanted to transform the Silk Road to a road of oil and gas. And in this regard, he carried on substantive dialogues with both Germany, Austria, Serbia, our neighbors, Hungary, as well as with Central Asian countries. His plan was to connect the Danube and Rhine with the Black Sea, Caucasus, the Caspian Sea, and hopefully beyond to China. Similar initiatives have been initiated by the European Union, by the United States, and rather recently in 2013 by China. So when it comes to the European Union, we have to mention PROSECA, the Transport Corridor Europe, Caucasus, Asia, which nowadays is independent, but at the beginning it was created with the EU support. We have to mention the new Silk Road of Central Asia, which was initiated in 2011. Obviously, the BRI, and also the most recent reiterations of a Silk Road, which is a globally connected Europe. We are still waiting for the results of the Commission strategy in 2022. And of course, the G7 initiative, Build Back Better World. I'd like to end by mentioning that at the time being, the idea of the Silk Road is still underlying interaction, not necessarily cosmopolitanism as Kant envisaged it. And I also have to manifest my lofty hope, some may call it downright stupid hope, that the so many initiatives may at one day create synergies and hence better serve their purpose. So in the end, I'd like to provide you with a thought-provoking quote from Lu Xun. 其实地上乱，没有路，走的人多了，也变成了路。Thank you very much. I'll send you my presentation on Zoom, and I'm looking forward to your questions and commentaries. I also left my email there. I'm looking forward to get in touch with you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Florea, for your interesting historical analysis of inter-regional connectivity initiatives. Very concise presentation. I hope there will be many questions in the Q&A session. And now let's proceed to our third speaker, Dr. Makna, and China's Belt and Road Initiative in Central Asia. So we're going to another region.
Okay. Very good morning to all of you, to respected dignitaries and the panelists. And I think it's a great pleasure for me and a great opportunity. I thank you, NICE, and Dr. Pramod as well also, to provide this platform to me to speak in this. So I'm Dr. Sania, and I'm going to basically speak on the topic One Belt and Road Initiative, and you can say One Belt and Road Initiative in Central Asia. And I think Professor Nicuşor has already shared so many things. I hope you are able to see my screen. Hope my PPTs are visible.
Yes, now it's visible.
Okay, fine. Thank you. So my topic is China's Belt and Road Initiative in Central Asia and what challenges the China and what challenges in Central Asian countries can have and what prospects. So just giving an brief intro about the Belt and Road Initiative, which was initiated by Chinese President Xi Jinping in 2013 in Kazakhstan. So he has given his delivered a speech in Nazarbayev University in 2013 in Kazakhstan, whereby he has declared his aspirations and you can say desires about the One Belt One Road initiative and what prospects it can have in the Central Asian region. So this
Hello, Dr.
Belt and Road Initiative is basically a
Okay,
road
because
economic
we
belt and
couldn't hear
maritime
you.
link, the Europe,
We couldn't
Africa,
hear
and
you
then
for
it
a
connects to
second.
the East Asia. Am I audible? Am I audible?
Now it's okay. Now you're back.
Okay. So my screen is visible or not?
No.
Okay.
Your
fine.
presentation is
So-
not. Oh, now it's visible. Now we can see it.
Okay, fine. Thank you. Okay, so it was basically it included both. It was basically it connected Central Asian countries and Asian continent, Europe, Africa, and then it connects to East Asia and Europe. So this region is based the Silk Route. I think already the Professor Cursor has told the importance of Silk Route. So China's main aspiration is to revive the Silk Route, the historical Silk Route, whereby it used to have the trade from the China's Xi'an province to Samarkand, then Bukhara, then to other parts of Central Asia, and then to India, Middle East, and Europe. So this Silk Route is, I think, a platform which is a high platform for economic development, economic boost up, economic trades, and not only economic trades, it can also open platform for various multi bilateral and multilateral cooperations. So developed countries, developing countries, that covers
I think we have problem again. We cannot hear you. Dr. Sania, we cannot hear you.
and when I move to my PPTs, my camera and my speaker gets turned off. So I don't know the
Yeah,
reason.
there is some problem
Is
again.
there any option
Now
that
it's good.
I can share my PPT over here only?
Yeah.
So I'm not able to see that option in the Zoom platform because there is only one option, that is sharing the screen. So, okay, fine. So, I don't know, it's automatically getting turned off. Okay, anyway,
So maybe you
sorry
can
for
share your presentation later in the chat box.
Okay, fine. Okay, it's okay. Okay, I can continue then. So, moving, ahead towards the, you can say significance of Silk Route. I think I have already told that this route is historically very important for the economic trade and economic development. And it was through this route the trade used to occur from China to Samarkand, to Central Asia, and to Middle East, and then to Europe. Okay, so aims behind China's One and Belt and Road Initiative. So the main aims of the China to revive the historical Silk Route for its economic boost up and economic development. So it will provide various various economic projects in Central Asia, not only in Central Asia, rather it can have economic projects in other parts of the world, like Europe and the Middle Eastern countries as well. So it also the other important aim of China is to have to make this one belt one road successful in Central Asia, is to create an influence in Central Asian countries, because China at its borders, at the western border of China is you can say attached with the Central Asian countries. Then the Xinjiang province of China, which is and it is a great threat to China's security. Also open economic opportunities for, I think, around more than 65 countries, not only for Central Asian countries. So what are the main interests of China in Central Asia? So looking at this part, so I would say that, geostrategically, China's location is very, very important in Central Asia. So if you look geostrategically, it is the heart of Central Asia, and it is always said, by the politicians like Mackinder, who rules the heart of Asia, or Eurasia rules the world. So this applies to Central Asia also. That is why, Russia and US, they always keeps its eye on the Central Asian region. And moreover, historically, I've already mentioned that the Silk Route importance, which moves from the Central Asia itself, so from Samarkand to Bukhara, so and it connects to Europe. So that has also led Central Asia, so that China, to develop its foreign policy towards Central Asia, because it will give lots of economic boost-ups, political and social and economic, as you can say, opportunities to China. Then the rich natural resources of Central Asia makes it more very attractive for the world major powers. So it is China who wants to take benefits of the natural resources like gas, oil, hydrocarbons of the Central Asia. Then I have already discussed the strategic location, because it is at the border of China. The western part of the China is attached with the Central Asian border, and the regional development, regional stability also becomes the concern for China. And moreover, its strategic location, the geostrategic location, which makes it very important and attractive location for China. So then border connections, I have covered that point also. Then Xinjiang province, because it is the Uyghur community which resides in China, in this province. It is the Central Asian community. So which is, I think China considers this community to be as a situation of insecurity. So it poses threat of terrorism to China. So China wants to control that region. So through this Belt and Road Initiative, it will be helpful for China to control that region and promotes regional stability in that province of Xinjiang. So China's main interests are the regional stability, fighting terrorism, and regional development, which it wants to have for its most of the provinces. And China is, as you know, that the China's aspirations is to become the superpower nowadays. So it is already has you can say initiate the process of becoming rising superpower in the world, and you can see it in the South China Sea and various other places as well. So this platform can provide, I think, lots of economic boost up to China to become a super economic power, as economically advanced nation. So, and another reason that why it wants to be in Central Asia is to counter, major other powers like Russia and US in the region. We can see that, Russia, because, never wanted to lose this Central Asian ground. Why? Because it had Soviet legacy. You know that these were the part of Soviet Union, and Russia never wanted to lose its legacy in the region. Moreover, Putin's recent policy of, Eurasian policy, whereby he wants to revive the Eurasian belt, and it is again a new concept of geopolitics, whereby Russia wants to revive the Eurasian belt through Eurasian Economic Union, so which was initiated in 2015 in Central Asia, and it wanted to have influence in this region, to take its economic, resource benefits, to take a political hold over there, and to revive the Eurasian region again in the world politics. So yes, it becomes, and moreover for US also, because this region became very important, after 9/11 attack. So you know that Afghanistan is at the border of the Central Asian nations, especially Uzbekistan. So to counter terrorism, US has used this. US wanted to use this Central Asian region, as a platform to counter terrorism. Again, US also wanted to have the benefits of Central Asian region, and moreover that I have already mentioned that it is the heart of Asia and Europe, that is, it's the Eurasian, and I have already considered that concept of geopolitics, that who rules Eurasia rules the world. So yes, so China is here playing as a game changer. So through this One Belt One Road initiative, the interests of the Central Asian republics can move towards, I think, China, so which can basically become a challenge for power balance for Russia and US in the region. Then now, what prospects and opportunities can Central Asia acquire from this One Belt and One Road initiative? As we know that, these 5 republics of Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan, Tajikistan, and Kyrgyzstan and Kazakhstan, they were basically the part of Soviet Union, and they have always, you can say, they have faced various invasions like Mongolian, Turkic, Persian, so the Tsarist, and then like you can say Soviet or Tsarist, they are the Russian invasions. So they, when Soviet Union disintegrated, so they were, you can say, forced to get independent. So they had to face forced independence, which was not welcomed by them. So which had left them with so many socio-political and economic challenges. So they wanted to, so One Belt One Road can be, a platform, or you can say can be an opportunity for them to revive their economy, to revive their status in the world politics. So yes, they can have lots of economic benefits. China can introduce lots of economic projects, can generate employment, can have maximum you can say trade. So as we know that these Central Asian countries are landlocked countries also, so they do not have maritime access. So China can build a road, railways, transport infrastructure in these countries, that will also reduce the expense of these countries, to flow goods and services to other parts. It will also you can say increase people to people connectivity. It will increase regional and international integration for economic cooperation, for political cooperation for these countries. So China will lend them financial support, and these countries can also you can say get the international cooperation from other parts of the world, like from European countries as well. And China can provide become a, you can say, base or huge opportunistic ground for Central Asian countries. Other benefits that Central Asian countries can have apart from these economic opportunities or infrastructure opportunities, so that is quality education, cultural and scientific exchanges, exchange of goods and services and ideas on equal terms. It is not that the China will have more influence. They wanted to have a balanced relationship. This is what the President Xi Jinping has basically delivered in the speech, and talked about the aspirations of what benefits the Central Asian partners can have through this One Belt Road initiative. Then also again creation of new markets and the trade routes for China to serve its goods to the Central Asian countries. Then I, for all the above, you can say opportunities I have mentioned, so they can be fulfilled through the initiative of Chinese president, which is Center for International Knowledge on Development and China's National Plan on Implementation of 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development, along with other related initiatives. Now, what challenges, as we have discussed about, the prospects or the interests of the China, but what challenges it can lead to Central Asia? I have already told you that, the Russia, like the Central Asian republics, they're already overcoming the challenges of the Soviet disintegration and the forced independence. So I personally believe that, it can lead to like this one belt road initiative. If China increases its influence in the region, so it can lead to another kind of dominance, like after the Russia. So, and it can also create serious economic crisis and political crisis to these regions, because they will again lose their sovereignty. So this is a big threat to them, because when China will make its projects, will lend monetary support, will give them loans on cheaper interest rates, that will bind them with China's, you can say, terms and conditions. So Central Asian countries will have no say. They will not be able to counter China. So China can use their lands, on their own terms for the projects, and China can also recruit Chinese labor instead of Central Asian labor. So employment benefits can be generated for Chinese people, not for Central Asian. So it can also pollute the environments of the Central Asian republic through projects. And the another trapping Central Asia into under huge debt. So because you know that they are not economically that stronger nations. So if they will not be able to fulfill these projects, so they will not be able to pay back the loans which they have taken from the China. So that will put them into serious economic crisis. So if we look this project, it is all in total favor of China's social, political, economic interests, not Central Asia. But yes, it can help Central Asia only then. So now I would like to conclude, my presentation with the points that this platform is really a landmark, or is a great initiative by China to integrate economically all the nations together, and it will also provide balance, if it provides the balanced multilateral and bilateral cooperation among the partners. And China should also create you can say build mutual trust, confidence, balance among the Central Asian countries through this project. It should not only dominate it, it should rather have a balanced cooperation and trust based cooperation. The project should also focus on fulfilling the interests of both Central Asian and China. Not only it should be in favor of only China. So this project can be beneficial for both Central Asian and China to to develop their trade relations and to revive their economy, but that should be on equal terms. And moreover, I have already mentioned that Central Asian countries should not give their sovereignty, to lose their sovereignty. So for that, they need to realize both the consequences, that is negative and the positive consequences of this project, and so that they can also take decisions independently. And also they should take benefits from all the major powers. So they should not you can say let any one part to rule the Central Asian region. So they should you can say swear their economic integration, or take the benefits from both all the superpowers which can work in the Central Asia. So thank you very much. With this, I end my presentation. And sorry that it interrupted at the starting.
Thank you very much. That was very interesting. And yes, indeed, we have this entire mixture of geostrategic, geoeconomic aspects, but also the aspects which are connected with normative values when we discuss Chinese plans to achieve its success with regard to Belt and Road Initiative. So on one hand, as you mentioned, we have this enhanced connectivity, we have trade exchange, enhanced trade exchange, which may lead to some regional stabilization and enhanced cooperation in the region. But on the other hand, we also have these issues connected with, strictly connected with normative things, such as China wants to achieve its power gains at the expense of other actors. And this Belt and Road Initiative is regarded also as a certain threat because China is materializing its policies with disregard to transparency, to democratic values, impeding a critical evaluation of this Belt and Road Initiative. So that's why independent research and analysis of potential effects of Belt and Road Initiative is very important. This contribution to the debate is extremely important here. So I've read that we have Dr. Shahid Hashmat. He joined us right now. I'm giving floor to him, and Dr. Pramod wrote that we have to be a little strict with time, so try to be concise within 8-9 minutes maximum. Okay, please, the floor is yours. Can you hear me, Dr. Hashmat? We will have the Q&A session at the end after all presentations. So this is the question we have to note. The Asian region will be overwhelmed with bilateral efforts rather than multilateral forums, that we will address this question once all speakers have the opportunity to share their thoughts, okay? So once again, Dr. Shahid Hashmat, are you there? Are you with us? I think he has disappeared. So then let's not maybe waste the time, and let's proceed. If he reappears, then we will give the floor to him. So please, now our next speaker on geostrategy and geoeconomics of the Belt and Road Initiative, Dr. Kapesa. Are you there?
Yes. Hi. Hello, everyone. Yeah.
Hello.
Just share my screen. Okay. Hello, everyone. And let me begin by thanking the Nepal Institute for International Cooperation and Engagement for holding this very interesting event. As the chair has also pointed out that we are running late with time, I'll just be very quick. I won't take much time. As all of us in the panel and those of us who are here, I believe has an interest or has done some kind of research on the Belt and Road Initiative. So there is no need for us to go into the background and the basics of the Belt and Road Initiative. So I just want to flag up some important points, which I think are important points which can be picked up or carried further for discussion. So as we have seen in some of our the presentations by our esteemed colleagues before also, the Belt and Road Initiative has always been looked at, or at least attempt have been made to explain the Belt and Road Initiative from a geoeconomics, geopolitical, and geostrategic point of view. At my paper, or in this presentation, I want to counter that. Yeah, in the existing now, some new literatures are coming up, but in the existing most of the existing literature have tried to understand or at least explain the Belt and Road Initiative from a geopolitical and geoeconomic point of view. But the question that I want to put forward here is the Belt and Road Initiative an initiative which is designed to further the Tian order and not vice versa? Is the Belt and Road Initiative an initiative designed to explain the the Tian order or the Chinese Tian order? The Belt and Road Initiative, BRI, to me seem, and I think, seemed like a presentation of Chinese cosmopolitanism, which supposedly is based on benevolence and justice. supposedly is based on benevolence and justice. So in the rise of China has been viewed, the rise of China has been viewed with a lot of suspicion and apprehension. And this, according to Xi Jinping, is the reason why China needs to come up with a convincing narrative, or to explain that the rise of China does not necessarily have to be seen with apprehension, or that the rise of China does not have to replicate the Western state system that we have, which is based on hegemony through the use of force. And so just to highlight some of the very important events leading up to the Belt and Road Initiative, for instance. One of the most significant and now widely popular work is the work of Prof. Tian, a Chinese philosopher. There are two books specifically in which this particular scholar has work on this. The first one being the Tian system, an introduction to the philosophy of a world institution, which came out in 2005. And the second book, the investigation of world political philosophy as the first philosophy, 2009. These two works has come to serve as these two works have come to serve as some very important events, or some very important which have come to shape the Chinese pursuit for Tian order in the present world. And as I think I will not go into the detail of the Tian order. So as we all know, the initiative was first proposed in 2003 as One Belt One Road, renamed in 2015. So by 2017, if we look at the proceedings of the National Congress of Chinese Communist Party, by 2017, BRI has become one of the important focus or important area of the Chinese government. Likewise, the 2017 or the 19th National Congress of the Chinese Communist Party resolution also argues that the practice of the need to come up with the practice of a new theory of global governance based on consultation, collaboration, and shared benefit. Essentially, this is a signal, or this is a clear message that the Chinese are officially in the process of reshaping, if not replacing, the present world order. Accordingly, the Chinese government, or the PRC, has argued that this will be China's contribution, or this will be China's share of work in making the world a better place, designing a new social order, a new world order. What is interesting is that a very interesting point is that how China explains the apprehensions and the speculation surrounding its rise. The argument is that the modern world system based on the logic of hegemony, based on force and power, this is what we have seen, this is what the world have seen, and naturally the speculations and suspicion about China, the rise of China is unavoidable. It's something that has to happen, but China will try to counter that through what is known as a community of shared future for mankind, based on a benevolence and justice, and its opposition to the hegemony in the as in the existing order, that world order that we have. And the BRI has BRI therefore through building connectivity, infrastructure, and everything has been painted or has been made according to the Chinese government's policy and statement, has been painted to make it look like it is contributing its share to towards building a better world order, and not for benefits and profit. Okay. I think okay. Yeah.
Your
So
final remarks, please, because we are really pressed in time. So please, if you could provide us with your final remarks, some conclusion.
yeah, all right, that's all right. I'm done. Yeah, I'm done. Just 1 minute probably.
Thank you very much.
As China has painted all these very beautiful pictures about the Tianxia order, the reason why BRI is introduced, the big question for us is to see, or the big question that is left for us to answer is how to square China's expanding international activities and influence with its assertion of a non-hegemonic intention. Yeah, thank you. I am sorry if I have taken more time than is allotted to me.
Thank you very much for presenting China's point of view, China's perception of the future world order, and I hope there will be many questions in the Q&A as well. And now let's proceed. Let's give the floor to our next speaker, Professor Sonam Lama. Are you with us, Professor?
Yes, I'm here. Very good morning to everyone.
Good morning.
Everything that I prepared for the concept of Tianxia seems to have been already discussed just now. But I'm just going to go through the whole thing. Just share my screen. Okay, so I hope you can see my PPT. It's a very short PPT. I'm not going to take more than 8 minutes. Hello?
Yes, we can see. We can see.
Okay. So my title for the paper is Nostrum for Tianxia, Analyzing the CACPU Connections. Now, to begin the paper, I would like to discuss the term nostrum. So the term nostrum, according to the Oxford Dictionary, means a scheme or a remedy for bringing about social or political reform or improvement. But the term nostrum could also be a noun, which means a medicine prepared by an unqualified person, especially one that is not considered to be effective. So these three concepts of the idea of nostrum, the idea of Tianxia, we are going to use that to analyze China's position and the kind of connections it's built with the CACPU port. So the Belt Road Initiative, like has already been discussed by many scholars who came before me in the same panel, as according to how it was useful or not useful, how it benefits, how there's a trade deficit with China. So it was launched in 2013. It is a multi-dollar infrastructure project. And here we are going to talk about the two components, which is the Maritime Silk Road and a new Silk Road. So the Belt Road Initiative was just to rejuvenate the Chinese nation and achieve the Chinese dream, where the Chinese believe that there is a middle kingdom, and the middle kingdom needs to be at the center of all the culture in the world. So the Belt Road Initiative is essentially giving out loans and other financial investments and assistance to other countries who have signed this Belt Road Initiative. So basically, this becomes like a Chinese-led globalization, and this challenges the neoliberal mode of globalization that emanates from the West. So it opposes the Western order of the neoliberal Western order that has been positioned and now is being run by the United States. So Dr. Kapesa, who came before me, spoke about Tianxia, and the concept of Tianxia, like what the scholar Zhao Tingyang talks about, is also a concept which talks about all under heaven. So Tianxia is basically a part of Chinese political philosophy, wherein they talk about the institutional world order. So in this institutional world order, you would be existing together, existing harmoniously. It would become a non-Western model and the Middle Kingdom would eventually shape the international norms and values. This world order would not be dominated by the West. In fact, it is countering this normative Western superiority, and in that itself, it finds a voice, and it has gained much more popularity because of this countering the Western superiority idea. And it is more inclusive than the Hobbesian world order, because the Hobbesian world order does not believe in a win-win situation. The Hobbesian world order and the very capitalistic point of view in the Hobbesian world order believes in man being selfish, brutish, and it believes in a zero-sum game situation. So the Tansian system, or the Tansia narrative, believes in a win-win situation, and it speaks about a general will of the people. So with this general will of the people, this concept of Tansia, we see China trying to push through a narrative of universal agreement. And this universal agreement is not just concerned with the geopolitical, it's not just concerned with the geoeconomic part. It's essentially based on that, and that's how it takes its importance from. But this narrative of Tianxia transcends the geopolitical and the geoeconomic. It becomes something which wants to have a physical, a psychological, and a political togetherness, coming together of the three, where it takes over the enemy and makes the enemy a friend. So the question is this a better alternative? And it is termed as a better alternative to current Western norms that shape international politics. And Tansia becomes a conceptual narrative which can overcome the world's complex problems through the alignment of its physical, psychological, and political realms. But it appears to be a very idealistic concept. It's not a practical goal, but it does have a deeper perspective of harmony that can help to broaden the conceptual space in which we examine different alternatives. We could look into it because it appears to be more inclusive, it appears to be more plural. Further, the Tansian system transforms one's enemy into one's friend. It advocates transformation and thus works by winning the other person's heart instead of conquering by force. The Tansia's key mechanism of transformation clearly sets it apart from Western worldviews. The ideas and values embedded in Tianxia is seen to be carried forward in the Belt Road Initiative. So moving forward, I hear a lot of disturbance. Can you hear me?
There are some disturbances, but we can still hear you.
Okay. So I'm just going to continue. Okay. So like we spoke about this tension concept, which seems to be idealistic, but because it seems to be more inclusive and plural, it does make a sense into looking into what this new sort of a world order would bring about. And the question that, does it have a deeper perspective of harmony? Would it be as an alternative, as a non-Western theory, as a non-Western idea or a philosophy? Would it be more inclusive, and would it take everybody together with it? So it's something. This idea seems to be inclusive. It's plural. It turns an enemy into a friend, and this transformation is not by force but by cooperation. So the Tansia idea of philosophy does not talk about using force or using military power to turn the enemy into a friend, but it talks about using cooperation, or something that was propagated by an idea of complex interdependence, as according to me. It talks about a coercion, which is not necessarily through military power, but a coercion which would be more financial. So then itself, we begin to question the idealistic nature of Tianxia, and if the narrative of Tianxia falls into the actual very idealistic nature, or they are just talking about a financial arm twisting. Like we see China, what it's doing in Hambantota, like what we've seen is doing in Gwadar, and what it is doing in Kakpu. So the ideas and values embedded in Tianxia certainly seem to be carrying forward the Belt Road Initiative. And that's what Dr. Kapesa has also spoken about. But there are a few things that I would like to point out, that this system, though it promises to be idealistic, promises to transcend the psychological, bring the enemy together, work together with everybody, it has certain loopholes and ideas which are problematic. So during his speech to the world leaders at the Belt Road and Forum in 2019, she said that the Belt Road Initiative would benefit all of its participants and not just China. He has promised that it's not going to be an exclusive club. He noted that the project would serve the interests of China, but also enhance multilateralism. So according to Xi, the initiative to enhance the connectivity and practical cooperation of the participating countries makes it a win-win outcome and a journey which talks about common development, that is the development of everybody. So China would uphold the principles of extensive consultation. It would have joint contributions. There would be shared benefits. There would be openness, inclusiveness. There would be transparency. So this reminds you of the much hyped promise of Sabka Saath. Okay. Is there a problem?
I can hear someone talking there. Let me just check.
Do I need to stop?
No, not at all. Absolutely not.
Okay. So here, when the Chinese president has promised that it would uphold the principles of consultation, there would be contributions, shared benefits, close communication, coordination, openness, inclusive, transparency, and all of that, it would remind you of the much hyped promise of Sabka Saath, Sabka Vikas, which essentially has not been carried out as yet. So the question is still, Tianxia is just a narrative. It's a narrative which talks about including everyone, but would it? And does it just mean like a different form of complex interdependence where there would be a lot of arm twisting the smaller nations, like we see what is going to be with Sri Lanka, like we've been talking about the debt diplomacy. Now, the tension worldview or the mandate of heaven is firmly placed in the hands of the Han Emperor. So this concentrates the power in the Middle Kingdom. The conceptual idea of Tianxia itself would mean that the president would be the center controlling all of these geopolitical, geoeconomic, his friends, his enemies. So the Belt Road Initiative has been portrayed in similar terms, as it is a major part of Xi's aggressive challenge to the dominant global position held by the United States. So questions have been raised regarding the win-win aspect of the economic project, as many recipient countries have been debt-ridden. We spoke about the whole debt trap diplomacy, and Hambantota in Sri Lanka would be a classic example. The BRI is riddled with concerns over this concept of this debt trap diplomacy, where several countries are unable to pay back the loans or review the original agreements with China. Critics have also raised issues of sovereignty with regard to the Belt Road Initiative, and countries such as India have questioned the Belt Road Initiative in terms of its transparency and processes. It views the commercial initiative as a means to advance strategic ambitions in a way that is not conducive to China's interest. So apart from all these criticisms, many countries have embraced the BRI. Myanmar has joined the BRI in 2017, the CACPU and the state councillor then, Suu Kyi, attended the Belt Road Forum for International Cooperation in Beijing in May 2017. There was a memorandum of understanding on cooperation within the framework of the Silk Road Economic Belt. Then there was the 21st Century Maritime Silk Road Initiative. They were signed during the visit. The two economic corridors, the BCIM and the Indo-China Peninsula Economic Corridor, which is particularly important for China, was placed under the Belt Road Initiative. So Myanmar's role here becomes very critical in the Belt Road Initiative. Through the China-Myanmar Economic Corridor, the major roads and railways are proposed to link China's Yunnan province with Myanmar's major cities. We have Jiago, which is connected to CACPU, and the CACPU opens up Chinese intervention into the Indian Ocean. So under these, a major strategic project is the CACPU SEZ in the Rakhine state of Myanmar. The CACPU port is estimated to be about a 10 billion US dollars project, and it involves a deep sea port and an industrial park. And the Chinese state investment company CITIC Group has been awarded the project.
Professor Lama,
So
please your concluding remarks, okay? Because we have
this
our
is
speaker, and everybody needs to have the time to share their thoughts with us.
Okay, this is my last slide. I'm almost done with this. So we
So
see how does the
last minute, okay?
Okay. So we've seen how everybody's reacted to it, and the scholars have all expressed their concerns over the Chinese strategies and what is happening with the debt and the diplomacy in the different ports and different regions in South Asia and otherwise. So the Chinese media have obviously said that have taken forward this whole Tian argument and said that the Chinese involvement in South Asia, the Chinese involvement in CACPU would transform the economic landscape of the township. So they are talking about how this is going to be very essential for the sustainable development of Myanmar. This will create 100,000 jobs. This will create tax revenues of $15 billion in the first 50 years itself. But we have to remember that Myanmar was a tributary state of China. It was transformed by the Chinese imperial dynasty into a tributary state in 1788. They agreed to pay tribute to Beijing. Thus, under this very imperial notion of a very in this philosophy, which I think supports a lot of imperialist notions, Tianxia remains to be the central concern of the Chinese government, where Myanmar and much of Southeast Asian nations were tributary states of China. And under this new debt diplomacy, they remain to be tributary states of China. They are seen to be placed under the overarching umbrella of all under heaven. So the modern day BRI can be termed as an extension of the same in Myanmar. It can be understood as Beijing's mode of embracing Myanmar in the Sinic world order. There is an overemphasis on the economic largesse given by China to Myanmar. However, it needs to be noted that the CACPU port is somewhat more important to Beijing, as it is the antidote to the Malacca dilemma. This makes CACPU a nostrum for Beijing. So we have to see if this would be good for Myanmar, or this would work out for China as they had intended it to be. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And so now we've learned that we have our fourth speaker, Dr. Shahid Hashmat. Please, 8 minutes for your paper, your speech. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. First of all, let me extend, I hope I'm audible?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. First of all, let me express my gratitude to the Nepal Institute of International Cooperation and Engagement for undertaking a very elaborate and comprehensive conference on reimagining the world. My apologies for joining a bit late because of some technical difficulties. I shall be expressing my views on BRI, a unique opportunity for the global and regional connectivity and economic progress. I do understand that worthy scholars have already elaborated various aspects of the BRI. I shall focus more on the Cpec, which is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, one of the important element of rather a flagship project of the BRI. As far as BRI is concerned, as a few other scholars have already and speakers have said, that this in fact opens a new chapter in human history of the commerce, trade, and cooperation and connectivity. There has been some other projects after the Second World War in Europe, like the Marshall Plan and some other minor projects as well. But a project which is of BRI, the magnitude of multi-billion dollar probably has not been launched and has not been implemented in the recent past. As far as BRI is concerned, as you all know, that it's a combination of a road, rail infrastructure network and sea lanes of communication, at times which is referred as string of pearls, where a number of seaports are to be connected, which will allow free flow of commerce and trade through the waterways, international waterways. However, coming back to China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, the project was initiated in 2013, and a number of projects have already been completed. Initially, the cost of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor was about 46 billion dollars, and later on it has been increased to about 65 billion dollars. Now, coming on to what is the fundamental difference it is going to make. The China-Pakistan Economic Corridor is going to connect the Chinese Western region, starting from Kashgar, all the way through Pakistan to Indian Ocean at a place called Gwadar, where there's going to be an international port city that is already under progress. But it is not only restricted to Pakistan. The Cpec will open new avenues of connectivity, which in fact, in a way, is a revival of an old Silk Route to a great extent. It will connect China's Western region with South Asian countries. It will connect the China and Pakistan and Central Asia, and it will connect all these regions with Middle East and with Africa as well. Now, you all can imagine what kind of extraordinary commerce and trade activity would be generated once this project is completed. A very important point which has been mentioned just now by the previous speaker about the debt trap. A lot has been said about the debt trap, especially with the context of Sri Lanka, the Hambantota port city, and in connection with Pakistan as well, which is the Gwadar seaport. Let me just share with you that I'm a former High Commissioner of Pakistan to Sri Lanka, and I had the opportunity to travel all along Sri Lanka, and I had the opportunity to visit Hambantota port myself. China has already helped Sri Lanka in developing few other projects as well. It is not the Hambantota alone. They have helped for the construction of a new terminal at Colombo port, and they are helping Sri Lanka in building few other highways and motorways as well. So one thing must be kept in mind, that at times there is a global propaganda with a particular aim and objective in the mind. So whenever there's a global competition, and we do understand that there is a global competition between China and few other global powers, and the peaceful rise of the China is being curtailed. Our efforts are being made to curtail it by different means. So a lot has been said about the debt trap, but one must keep in mind that nothing comes totally free in this world. If any particular country is borrowing from the World Bank, or they are borrowing from IMF, or they are borrowing from any other international institution, certainly it has some kind of conditions attached to it. But our own experience in Pakistan is that the China is not tying any condition, any geopolitical or any other conditions which pertains to Chinese expansion in this region as far as these projects are concerned. So my own personal opinion is that on the completion of the BRI, and especially on the completion of China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, it is not only going to connect these regions in terms of commerce and trade, it will open many new avenues of people-to-people contact. And we are looking forward for enhanced cooperation in the field of education, in the field of culture, and in the field of tourism as well. I'm sure that as far as my country is concerned, we have no doubt in our mind that the Cpec is a project which is going to create the conditions of win-win situation where we will benefit from the projects, number of projects. There are a number of projects which particularly include the rail and the road infrastructure. It include electricity generation power houses. It also include specialized export zones as well. So once all this is completed, we feel that not only we will benefit from it, the complete region, we will have a better connectivity. I hope a new opportunity is also emerging and it can be combined. That is prospects of peace in Afghanistan. We have had a bloody war in Afghanistan where enormous loss of life has already taken place and the country stands devastated. But now there is a hope that when the situation stabilizes, the Cpec can be extended to the Central Asia. So we will have a connectivity between the Central Asian states through Afghanistan, through Pakistan, to the rest of the world. Just to conclude, we should show a bit of patience and we should show more of a professional acumen to understand what are the real benefits which will accrue from these projects, the complete BRI and the Cpec in particular. And we should slightly be cautious about variety of propaganda which is being launched and unleashed against the various components of BRI and Cpec in particular. Just to conclude, that we look forward for better bilateral relations, not only with China, but with all those countries which will connect, which will be connected through Cpec. So I personally feel that this is a unique opportunity and it will create unimaginable, it will actually unleash new forces of the economic cooperation and connectivity in the region. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for presenting us Pakistani perspective on the Cpec. And let's proceed. We have two more speakers. Now, Dr. Manengo, please. The floor is yours, 8 minutes for your speech.
Yeah, thanks so much for the speech. And first of all, I would like to thank the Paris Institute for International Cooperation Engagement for this great event. And my topic I prepared to share with you is the World Back Better World versus the Belt and Road Initiative, DRC in a complex dilemma. And I'm talking now actually about the case of DRC, and DRC can also be removed and put in our country like a cases, because it's quite the situation of most of the country in the world that I'm going to talk here. But first of all, I would like to give you my main point, like my big picture of the world, how I'm describing this shifting world today. For me, this shifting world is dominated by the conservative and progressive competition, conservative progressive competition. And this competition is the competition of those who want to conserve their power, influence around the world, and those who are pushing for change. And actually, we can understand it easily with the Build Back Better World. The West want to conserve their influence in the world. And the Belt and Road Initiative, the Chinese, the progressive, they are pushing for change. And actually, it's also like what the competition of the order and the newer influence. But the question in the table here I'm going to discuss here is—
We cannot hear you precisely, unfortunately. Can you maybe speak louder, or because we can't hear you that well?
You can hear me well? Now it's
Not
good?
so well. Now it's a bit better.
Oh, now it's better?
Now it's better.
Okay. I was talking that my description of the world, I described the world actually like dominated by the conservative, progressive competition, and is the competition of those who want to conserve their power and influence around the world, and those who pushing for change. And we can understand it very easily now with the Build Back Better world, and is what the conservative of the West and the Belt and Road Initiative and the progressive of China, and is what the competition of the order against newer influence. And the question in the table I'm going to discuss with you is, why may DRC may find itself in a complex dilemma? And you know, actually, so many scholars around the world, when they are discussing the Belt and Road Initiative and the Build Back Better world, they are just saying that, you know, the country around the world, maybe they are going to choose between maybe they just like to China, the Belt and Road Initiative, and the West, the Build Back Better world. And some scholars also, they are saying that some countries, they can be in the middle. They can balance both sides. They can balance the Belt and Road Initiative and the Build Back Better world for not choosing one side against another one. But me, I'm coming with another scenario, another thinking. I'm saying that there is a scenario of a complex dilemma. Why a complex dilemma? Is a scenario that is not just easy to choose one side against another side, but is also very difficult to be in the middle, to balance both sides. So the complex dilemma here describing the situation that for the two, for a choice of two sides, it's not easy for you to go to another side against another against another side, but it's also very difficult for you to stay in the middle. And that's the case of most of the countries they will face, and the case also of DRC that I'm talking here. DRC may find itself in this case to be not to be in the middle and not to choose also another side and against another side. But the question is why? Why DRC may find itself in that situation of complex dilemma? So quickly, I'm going to give you my five core arguments. The first one is because of the strategic character of DRC. You know, DRC is the big country in the middle of Africa and is a very rich country. And both sides, the China and the West country, really they are impressive. They want really to deal with DRC. Of course, DRC is rich, and just if you are thinking now about the green economy, and both sides, the Chinese and the West, they need for some strategic raw material for, of course, building very well the green economy. Think about the electric vehicle, and you need the cobalt, and DRC is the world. DRC itself cover having more than 0.5% of the world reserve of cobalt, and is very rich. And the West side and even China, all those sides, two sides, they won't really to deal with DRC. And this what is it will be very complex for DRC to choose China or United States. And also, it is not easy just for China to remove, to say, no, I will not deal anymore for DRC, because China needs really DRC, and also the West really need DRC for their best survival. And another point is because of the dependency of DRC on China. You know, DRC is more dependent to China in economical perspective. You know, most of the exportation, because DRC economy is a extravagant economy, is more dependent to outside, just focus on the selling of the raw material. And the exportation of DRC, more half of the exportation of DRC going to China. And for the importation, China sent to DRC around 20% of the importation. And economy, DRC economy is really linked with China. And if actually we say we don't need China anymore, and it will affect really our economy. And it's not an easy choice for us to choose China or to stay in the middle, because we cannot say we don't need China anymore. If we say it, it will affect really our economy that is really linked to outside world. And another core argument is also our dependency to the West world. And for the West world perspective is more linked to politics. You know, think about the history of Africa. We are really linked to the West. You know, think about the democracy and election. And those elements really link more to politics. And the dependence of DRC with the West, yeah, of course, there is also economic dependence, but more dependency is.
Dr. Benjamin, please, Dr. Manenko, your last remarks, okay? Just short conclusion.
I'm going to the end. I'm going to the end. And for the West, it will be economic, political dependency. And another argument is the government and the leadership problem. Government and leadership problem. You know, if you look at, you know, the Transparency International Index, you will find DRC is quite the last on the list about corruption, about the government. And the leaders, because of the political link and everything's complex, they are really weak and not so strong. They can be moved to go in this way, to go in another way, and they are not really strong. And with those arguments combined, that it will really put DRC to find itself in really a complex dilemma, just also the case of most of the countries. But it's up to DRC to prepare itself well for its best survival. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your speech. And since I've learned that Dr. Singh is leaving us soon, I have a very brief question to her as she addressed the Cpec issue. What do you think, Dr. Singh, about the situation in Afghanistan, about this dynamics which is happening just right now on the Cpec and China's policies? Could you please share briefly your thoughts, like within 1 minute?
Thank you, Chair, and for that question. Yes, Chinese have expressed their ambition to extend the China-Pakistan economic corridor in Afghanistan. And it's naive to say that the Chinese were not really aware of this kind of instability that was imminent in Afghanistan after the US withdrawal. So, I mean, some calculations I'm sure must be there on the Chinese side, but yes, the fact that Afghanistan is currently under steep chaos, China will have to rethink, and especially considering if you look at China's investment behavior, it has been very cautious. Some have also called it a very sort of risk-averse sort of a behavior on the Chinese side. But to say that these calculations regarding instability and uncertainty, when they were talking about extending the Cpec into Afghanistan, but not there on the Chinese mind, I think it's really not fair, because they are quite sensitive to all these issues, but we also have to take cognizance of the fact that the Chinese have been very forthcoming towards the Taliban of late.
We have to also ask the question to what extent the Taliban government will be willing to cooperate with China. We should not forget that China, by some Islamic fanatics, is regarded as a country which violates the rights of Muslim Uyghur people.
I agree.
So this is another question: to what extent this cooperation is possible?
That I think it's really premature to really make a very emphatic sort of statement on that aspect. But we have to see that the Taliban, they have kind of really convinced China about not supporting what they call the members of the ETIM who may be present in Afghanistan. They have assured the Chinese side. And this is where I think the main concern from the Chinese side was this particular aspect, whether what would happen if some kind of fundamentalism really percolates from Afghanistan to China. But what China has done is to kind of really, the first step is to kind of really seek assurance from the Taliban regarding this problem. So that they have assured, but how much are they going to really stick to their assurances, the Taliban? We really
this is another question.
That's very important.
Yeah, exactly.
And thank you, Chair, and thank you to my
learned
co-panelist. It's been
a pleasure having you here. And let's give the floor. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Our last speaker, Ms. Eva Disanayake, who will have 8 minutes for her speech. Please, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon to all.
Good afternoon.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry, I won't be able to turn on the video, and I'm not sure about the slide share because I'm having a very
we can see your slides.
Okay.
And we can hear you very well.
Thank you so much. So my name is Evelyn and I'm from Sri Lanka. So today my presentation is about the Build Back Better World and the Belt and Road Initiative. And this is actually based on an ongoing research, and this is in its very initial stages. And this aims to compare and contrast the B3W and the BRI to examine the political agenda behind these two initiatives and to see if these would complement each other towards a development in the global south, or it would lead towards a new Cold War within today's multiplex world context. So I'm not going to talk about the BRI and the B3W in detail because as we all already know and have spoken about it. So we see that there are so many questions behind China's BRI. There's the talk about the debt trap and also about transparency, corruption, and environmental issues. There's also the tech and trade war going on between China and USA, and that is another reason for most countries to see China as a threat and China's BRI as a threat. So at this point this year in June, we saw that the B3W stepped in and it highlighted its principles, and it in a way postured itself as a savior, I would say, for the countries caught into this China's BRI debt trap, especially for countries like Sri Lanka. And we already see from different writings that some countries, some BRI countries like Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, Thailand, and the Philippines, to name a few, are being attracted towards B3W. So there are lots of debates going on here about these two initiatives, whether these could supplement each other or whether this is going to be another threat for the developing countries. So I see this as a typical political game of the powerful nations who tend to provide economic assistance through different means to developing countries to enhance their own national security and to make sure that their position in this international stage is stable. But if BRI, if the world is seeing, if most countries or the West is seeing BRI as a political game of China, then so is the B3W. And because we see that the US has already convinced the European and Asian allies during the G7 to weave together an anti-China front, reinserting US into a global leadership position to build back a better world. So while there are many debates going on about this B3W and China's debt trap diplomacy in particular, we see that we could ask if B3W or on another scale, whether it's an impeding competitor to BRI. What is the agenda behind the US-led B3W here? And will the big powers of this world involve in an infrastructure initiative without any hidden intention? And why did they choose infrastructure here? So I would go back to history, to the 1940s, post-World War II, where we saw the US introducing the Marshall Plan to reconstruct the war-torn Europe. And during the Cold War and post-World War II, it was reconstructing, and through which it gained its status as the superpower, which resulted, of course, in a unipolar world order. So relating to this, it could be also argued, and could be argued, that B3W could possibly be another perceptive idea of the United States to reconstruct the global South, so it regains its status of hegemony in this existing world order. If that is US's agenda behind B3W, then of course this is not going to be an easy game for both the countries, US and China, and for both BRI and B3W, because the relationship between these two powers, which is already not seen in good shape, is going to be defined further. And it is also vital to understand that unlike it was back in the 1940s, when it was between US and USSR, in this contemporary context, China is not alone. We see that China has support from USSR and also from some other major countries. And but at the same time, it would also not be easy for an easy game for China either, as the US would definitely want a zero-sum game here, and not otherwise. USA will always be wanting to be the hegemon or the powerful nation in the world. And US will have the support not only from the Western democracies, but also from India, Japan, Australia, and many other countries in the global South. So thus, when we look into this new initiative of B3W led by the USA, we can see that this does look like a political game that could influence towards another Cold War. But this time, this new Cold War would be based more on infrastructural politics, where the power would use a techno-economic strategy, I would call it, as weapons of power within this today's multipolar, or rather multiplex world system as we see it. And I would like to end with these three questions, which are still debatable and which needs to be examined further, whether B3W is a competitor and a challenge to BRI. And is B3W purely a strategy of the US to sustain its status as superpower and to become the world hegemon once again? Will this political game between the B3W and BRI result in another Cold War? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much for your speech. And as we have last 5 minutes, I think that we can address some questions. And in our chatter box, there was a question which appeared after Dr. Sania Makna's speech. So can it be predicted that the Asian region will be overwhelmed with lateral efforts rather than multilateral forums? Dr. Makna, could you please try to address this question?
Yes, sure. Thank you very much. Thank you for the question. It's an interesting question. No, it's not that the Asian can only have the bilateral. Yes, we can have both platforms, the multilateral as well as bilateral. So it is not only that the Asian countries, yes, but bilateral can be promoted more. It can give, to flourish more, to improve their relations, security, economy, everything. So yes, multilateral cooperations will work, because one Belt Road Initiative is not the bilateral one. It is a you can say it is an open platform for everyone. But yes, it will introduce both multilateral as well as bilateral relations, but it can improve more bilateral relations. Yes.
Thank you very much. And since there are no more questions, I think I would like to address the Afghanistan issue, and I would like you all to express your thoughts, because I consider it a tremendously important dynamics which is happening just right now. So if you could please a few words. Dr. Singh is not there, that's why I asked her this question before she left, but maybe Dr. Florea. So one after another, okay, please, as I have you on my list. That all panelists would address quickly this impact on the situation in Afghanistan on Belt and Road Initiative. How do you perceive? Because we have different perceptions. European perception, we have Central Asia, we have South Asia, Pakistani, Indian, Sri Lankan, African. So then we can just try to address this issue briefly.
Well, indeed, in terms of Afghanistan, I have to admit that I haven't carried on substantive research on this, but if I may add my commentary on the previous question, whether the cooperation in Asia would be rather multilateral or bilateral. Well, definitely there are very strong regional organizations in Asia. I wrote extensively on ASEAN, for instance. We also have the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, the Commonwealth of Independent States, and so on. But what I have noticed is a particular tendency of China to stress more on bilateral relations in terms of BRI. We definitely have China as a dialogue partner for ASEAN on one hand, but on the other hand, I haven't seen the topic of BRI approached during the partnership between China and ASEAN. Another tendency that I have noticed with regard to BRI in Asia is, and not only, is to focus on sub-regional aspects. We have China-Mekong River cooperation. As Central and Eastern Europeans, we know that we also have China and, well, 16 plus 1, 17 plus 1, now 16 plus 1. God knows what will happen next year. So it's hard for me to provide you a qualified answer on whether or why China prefers the bilateral format of cooperation. But clearly, this is a tendency. It's either bilateral or sub-regional.
Thank you very much for your remarks. And now briefly, Dr. Hashmat, maybe about Afghanistan, you wanted to say a few words. We still have a little bit of time. Is he there?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think a point has been raised about Cpec's extension to Afghanistan or through Afghanistan to the Central Asian states. And the passing remarks has also just been mentioned whether such like issues of BRI, they have been discussed by Taliban and by the Chinese authorities. I would just like to say that Afghanistan at the moment is witnessing a very phenomenal transformation. Afghanistan has been under turmoil for 40 years, more so the last 20 years under US and NATO occupation. So they have been fighting, and the whole country stands totally devastated. Their infrastructure is completely destroyed. The livelihood of the people is totally finished, and that can be very easily seen from what is happening on the Kabul airport at the moment, and why a large number of people, they are ready to even risk their life for their evacuation. So I personally feel that at this moment, for Taliban and for the neighboring countries, What is extremely important is the prevalence of peace and security in Afghanistan. And I think the Taliban, they have been negotiating with all the neighboring countries. Their delegation had gone to China and their delegation had gone to Moscow. They are in touch with Pakistan, they are in touch with Iran, and they have been talking even to the Americans. Very recently, negotiations at a very senior level have taken place. So we should give little time to the Taliban, not only the Taliban for that matter, and not Taliban per se, but we should give time to the Afghan. It is expected that there will be all-inclusive interim or transitional government, and thereafter there will be a government which would reflect all segments of the Afghan society. Thereafter, I'm sure they will focus on reconstruction and rebuilding of the country. So only time will tell to which side and to which trajectory things will move. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's see to what extent the Taliban is capable of fulfilling their promises. I'm full of doubts, I must admit, but let us see. Dr. Lama, Professor Lama, do you have any comments on that? Like last few words?
Yeah, just a second. Yeah. So what I, first of all, let's say what it is. It's very shameful what is happening in Afghanistan, especially what is happening to the women, the airport, and what they are saying that America has abandoned Afghanistan. It's pretty shameful, the kind of political instability in the region, though I'm not very well read on Afghanistan. But what I do understand is that if there is a particular foreign minister whose name I just wrote down, his name is Wong Weibin, and we saw that the Chinese had communication and connection with the Taliban, not 1 week after the Taliban took over. So that statement coming from the foreign ministry spokesperson itself says that the Chinese do not care about the other aspects that is going on in Afghanistan. And their association with the Taliban at such a short notice also says that their intentions to extend the Cpec corridor, and there is absolutely no regard for anything like human rights. And the point that you raised about Uyghur Muslims, I don't think that would matter here. And it would be something like a parallel side communication, something along the lines that India and Pakistan has always had, or India and China have always had, that would be pushed aside, because Afghanistan is rich in mineral deposits. It has around $3 trillion of lithium worth minerals. It has lithium, it has gold, it has oil, it has copper, it has uranium. So based on all of this, these small issues about the Uyghurs, I think those are going to be completely sidetracked, and neither China, neither Taliban are going to have any regard for the kind of human rights or the kind of liberal ideas that we are talking about in the region. This instability is going to profit China, if not anything else. I really believe that.
Thank you so much. And I think we've exceeded our time for 5 minutes. And I think we have to end the session. Thank you very much. I'd like to extend my gratitude to all our panelists, our participants. It was really a great pleasure sharing this informative session and to hear different perspectives on the Belt and Road Initiative. This discussion is never ending, we can say, and we will see what future shows, as you all, I think, concluded here as well. Thank you so much, and I'm giving the floor to the organizers.
Distinguished Chair, speakers, ladies and gentlemen, as we have come to the end of this session, we would like to express a sincere gratitude and thanks to the Chair for agreeing to chair and moderate the session today. Our sincere thanks also goes to all the speakers for being a part of the event and delivering such comprehensive and convincing presentations. We would like to acknowledge our gratitude to our friends from the diplomatic community, experts, academia, media, and different organizations. Finally, we must also mention our deep sense of appreciation for the audience who participated in the webinar and those who are watching us live. Thank you for your valuable time and attention, and for making this session productive with your questions. Once again, we are truly honored to have you all with us today. Please do join us